This season, I photographed all 2022 races, plus pre- and post-season testing. And while it wasn't as grueling as 2021, where I had to stay away 286 days from Australia and then do 14 days of quarantine when I got back, it was still a grind. And in a moment, I'm going to run through all of my highs and lows for season 2022. "2022 kicked off for me in Bahrain with pre-season testing and ended up with post-season testing in Abu Dhabi. Throughout the year, I took more than 400,000 photos and ended up with around 32,000 pics, which I uploaded to my website, prostarpics.com. What were my most popular car shots? Well, this one was the standout. Carlos extracting himself from a flaming car in Austria. Pure fluke that I was there at that right moment, and some great pics ensued. The other super sensational photo opportunity was at Silverstone. Opening lap, first turn. Zhou Guanyu sliding a couple of 100 metres on his roof through the gravel trap and very nearly jumping the catch fence, which would have meant he was into the bottom level of that grandstand. But let's have a look at my Instagram channel and see what the most popular posts were. In the top 10, the majority feature women. Why are they so popular? I guess you're going to have to answer that because you are the ones looking at those posts. And as you can see, Lando with his new girlfriend Louisa was very popular. The pair have since split. My year meant that I was away for some 200 days from Australia. 153 of those nights I spent in hotels, 22 in apartments, and 7 with a relative in Melbourne. What were my favourite hotels? Did you ask that? Well, if you didn't, bad luck. I'm going to answer that question. The number one was the JW Marriott in Baku. Brilliant hotel, beautiful rooms, and perhaps most importantly, right on the track. All I had to do was walk over the bridge to be in the paddock. The Kempinski Hotel in Budapest, I love, predominantly for the nightlife around it each night. It was just such a buzz. And the third one, the Nobu Hotel in Las Vegas. A real buzz to be there for the launch of the 2023 F1 race. My best apartments, well, there were 2, both in Italy, one in Imola and one in Monza. Homes away from home. Those were the top of the list. What were the bottom of the list? Without a doubt, it was the Hotel Castle Inn in Suzuka, being the most basic of my hotel accommodation. It was the Media Hotel, a typical Japanese local business hotel. Small rooms, very basic, but more than suitable for sleeping. Flights, how many? 61. And that involves spending a total of 326 hours in the air. That's nearly 2 weeks above ground and about 7 times around the world if you put all those flights together and you can get an aircraft that didn't have to stop for fuel. And on top of that, you need to add 170 odd hours being the time to get from hotels to airports and from airports to hotels. How many airlines did I travel this year? 23 in total. I had 11 flights on Emirates, I had 10 on Qatar, and 6 on Singapore Airlines. And what were my top 3 airlines? Well, it's those 3. I put them Qatar first, Emirates second, and Singapore third. Best business class? Qatar Q Suites, without a doubt. Best first class? Well, I only had 3 flights and they were all on Emirates first class. And it's spectacular. It's your own cabin in the sky. My best individual flights, I'd say, were Sao Paulo to Dubai, 15 hours in first class with Emirates. A flight that you just don't want to end, it's that good. And my best surprise was JetBlue from Vegas to New York. I had no idea that internal USA business class flights would be that good. Best meal I had in the air? Look, it's hard to remember them all, but I seem to come back to this fish meal I had on Fly Dubai, which is Emirates' budget carrier. It was only a short flight, but my gosh, I remember it as being fantastic. And the worst meal? Would have been one on American or Delta, flying internally in the US. It wasn't even a meal, it was just a selection of rubbish from a basket of treats. The worst flight I had? Probably Ryanair from Marseille to Budapest, and it really wasn't that bad. And the worst airport? Marseille Airport Terminal 2. An absolute shocker, more like a barn. Best rail trip I took? Rail Italia, Bologna to Rome. Great food and beverages, plenty of room, and a real treat. And of course, the bullet train in Japan is always a joy. Rental cars, I had plenty of them this year. Nothing terribly fantastic. I'd say the Mazda 6 that I had in Dubai last race was probably the standout. At this point, let me mention that Kennedy.com is without a doubt the world's best online staff training platform. Hundreds of short, sharp videos designed to have your staff wowing customers in no time. There's a link to Kennedy.com in the description below, and I'm going to urge you at the end of this video, go and click on it and have a look. In a year that saw Max Verstappen take out the World Drivers' Championship with 4 races still to go, there were plenty of highs and lows throughout the season. Let me run through some of them for you now. My top 3 events to photograph: Monaco. There are so many angles, it's so easy to get around, and the backdrop is simply stunning. Abu Dhabi I love for the night racing and the colour, and a tie for third between Imola and Zandvoort, both great European races. And a one-off event that I photographed this year that was mind-blowing was Las Vegas. And of course, we'll be going there in 2023. And my least favourite race to photograph? That'd be Jeddah for a few reasons. The busiest paddock? Probably a draw between Austin and Miami come Saturday and Sunday. Crazy numbers in there, very hard to get around. And the quietest paddock? Japan. Suzuka had very few people in that paddock because there were still a few COVID restrictions in place, and it meant that we could get around very easily. Firsts, well, there were a number this year. Probably the most bizarre was the bomb attack in Saudi Arabia, in Jeddah. I don't think I was ever scared or frightened by it. I think it was more of interest. Certainly the locals weren't too worried about it, but I think I can say that I've never been 20 kilometres away from a bomb attack. Daniel riding a horse in the paddock? Go figure. Never seen that before. Doubt we'll ever see it again. Seb with his undies over his race suit in Miami. And on the subject of Miami, the Beach Club created quite a bit of controversy with this particular picture and a couple of others getting people a bit hot under the collar. That's not F1. Well, that is F1 if you're in Miami. What about George wearing his girlfriend's Daniel Ricciardo sweater in at Zandvoort? That created quite a bit of chatter. And Checo somersaulting into the Red Bull pool after his win in Monaco. All events that grabbed my attention. What were the controversies this year? 3 come to mind. Definitely Max refusing to let Checo pass in Brazil. That created quite a bit of hate on social media, way out of line. As was McLaren sacking Daniel Ricciardo. Once again, McLaren came under a fair amount of fire for that. And the other one is Fernando going to Aston Martin and then Oscar being wrongly named as his replacement. Most emotional moment for me would have been George winning in Brazil. It was quite sensational to be that close to the action, and I locked eyes with George while he was in Parc Ferme, and we had a big smile on both of our faces. I was very happy for him. The wettest day we had this year? Singapore, quali evening. Boy, did it bucket down. And was I asked to take any posts down on Instagram this year? Yes. A couple of pics that could have got a driver into trouble, and then there were a few people who didn't like the way their pictures looked and asked me to take them down, which I acquiesced for most of them. Lost items, yes, there were more this year. 2 of these RAM mounts, a beanie, a couple of lens hoods. I left the lens in an overhead locker on a plane, and luckily Mark Sutton, a fellow photographer, picked it up and dragged it off the plane for me and gave it back. 2 suitcases were lost, not by me, but by the airlines. I had one going into Dubai at the end of the year and one halfway through the year into Baku. Minimal damage there. I was without them for a day at most. Best-selling photo book? Well, up until 2 days ago, it was the best of 2021. But now it's the best of 2022 photo book, which you can order at kimelman.com. My best-selling picture? Still this one, Lando coming out of the tunnel in 2021. And the second best-selling picture is Daniel Ricciardo in that Gulf oil livery car. Best-selling driver prints, Fernando Alonso. They sold out in 3 days earlier this year. Still available for you, though, are Alex Albon, Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, one Nick de Vries, and some Günther Steiner pics. You can get them at kimelman.com. And for most of those, you receive a picture of the driver or team principal signing your individually numbered picture for irrefutable proof of authenticity. Best rating YouTube video. Well, once again, for the 4th year running, it's the wives and girlfriends version. That one dated very quickly, as they all do, as girlfriends come and go, and Lando and Louisa split up about a week after that video went up. Favourite driver this year? Yeah, I'm often asked that, and I'm going to say he's just a joy to photograph. This year, I decided I would take a note of what alcohol costs in duty-free stores around the world. So I started at the beginning of the year and I decided to make Johnny Walker 1 litre bottles my benchmark. And here's what I found out. The cheapest was in London. It was $18 a bottle US. Now, that's if you bought 2 bottles in a 30-pound pack. The cheapest individual bottle was in Rome, $18.57 US, Milan a little bit more, Paris $20.23, Dubai a little bit more, $23.33, Perth $25 a litre, but that's actually based on a 1.125 litre bottle scaled back to a litre, and same with Montreal, it works out to $26 a litre, and the most expensive was Budapest, $27.82 for a litre. So London Heathrow was the best value. Who do I need to thank for this year? Well, I think my wife Tonya needs a big thanks, my son Jace, who does a lot of my social media, Nicole's my editor, Kiralee, the general manager of my Australian businesses, Michael Anthony does lots of late night IT calls with me, Lars from Williams, James who helps me out on Twitter, and I need to say thank you to these people who are some of my biggest supporters on my various sales platforms. Now, I don't ask much of you, but I'd like you to take a quick moment to press the like button on your screen. Subscribe if you haven't done so, and why not become a member and support the channel? You'll find all of my digital images at prostarpics.com. For wall art, F1 photo books, merchandise and signed prints, go to kimillman.com, and for my best images live from the track and all during the week, go to Instagram and search @KimIllman. Thanks for watching and stay passionate. And stay passionate. And stay passionate.